Welcome to the MWA podcast. I'm Kyle and I'm here with my co-host Sean. Today we're thrilled to welcome Murrah, Carlo, and Brian Murrah to the show. They're both talented woodworkers and owners of Heartwood Woodshop, where they craft beautiful furniture and kitchen goods. And also, they're just up the road from me. So welcome to the show, guys.
Thanks, Kyle.
Thanks for having us.
Yes, we met at the Texas Woodworking Festival.
Yep, absolutely.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, that was fantastic. And then, we hung out there for a while, and then all of a sudden it's like, what? Y'all live in Pearland? Which was
And now Kyle asks for a place to stay up the road when he's a little tired coming home. Says, hey, can I stop by? Is he like the annoying neighbor now? Now that he knows where you live.
We have the room.
Yeah.
Oh
No,
boy, careful.
I definitely want to stop by and see their shop. That looks like something else. So
Mm.
anyway, well, before we get started and talk about what Murrah and Brian have been up to, let's give a shout out to our Patreon. So who do we have to thank?
Yeah, for sure. We like to give a big shout out to our Patreon supporters. And today we're going to give that shout out to Rich Harwood. Rich, thank you for your support. And if you, dear listener, would like to support the MWA podcast like Rich does, you can go to patreon.com/MWA podcast and help us out there.
Yes, thanks so much, Rich. And love your name. That's a name for a woodworker right there.
It is.
Yeah, there you go. Well, anyway, let's move on to what's in the shop. So, Sean, I understand you have a stool you can sit on.
I have a stool sample. It's a simple kit. I did none of the woodworking, but I did all of the cord weaving
Mm-hmm.
on the Danish cord seat of the stool. It's upstairs, but technically it's not finished. It's really close, but the wrap that goes between between the front and back, basically to hide the gaps
Mm-hmm.
that are in there. By number, by the instructions, and by dimension, it should have worked out, but it's basically there's like an extra space where I thought I could have done another loop.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's a little angular and it's a little loose underneath. So I've got to get some tacks to like tighten it up underneath just to kind of set it to be finished. That's the only thing. I mean, it's totally tight and sittable, and the end product it's not even in its weave.
Mm-hmm.
There's some that are perfectly tight, square together and straight, and then there are some that waver and gap a little bit here and there. But I'm well pleased with it. It's another seat in my small living room, and I ate dinner on it today just to pop a spot
Okay.
on it. So it's
So what's your verdict on the Lee Valley Danish cord stool kit?
completely a simple weekend project if you have a little bit of patience.
Mhm.
I took it in smaller bites, especially the weaving part, but just in the beginning, drilling 90 some 16th inch 1/4 inch deep holes
Mm-hmm.
once measured and laid out around the frame. That's a little tedious. A very simple finish it comes with. It's a waxy finish, a couple coats of that. So it's sand, assemble, drill, hammer in some hooks.
Mm-hmm.
So like I did the build the frame of it in inside an hour, of just kind of from a stack of cut planks to glued up and looking like a stool without a seat. And then after that, it took a little bit of time. And like I said, like I broke the weaving up across days. I'd literally, I'd take a shower, I'd come downstairs, I would spend 15 minutes, I'd do 3 or 4 passes, and I'd go, okay, I'll take a break, I'll just go, But then when I got into it, once I got past half, and it was the weekend, and I had some more time, I sat down. So I forget what game I was watching on TV, and I laid into it, and I finished it. And funny enough, a week later, Mark Spagnolo, the Wood Whisperer, he has an upcoming class or video that they're released that on a Danish cord stool bench, so it's a longer bench. And so we were talking back and forth about that a little bit, and I was like, hey man, I just did this. He goes, hey, how sore are your fingers? I said, actually not bad, but because whatever, it's a lot of cord. I mean, I didn't measure out. I know because the stool itself is just it's like 22 by 18 or something like that. It's not square, but it's not big. And as far as the dimension of the seat, 30 feet of that cord was just for like one of the first steps of doing some starting wraps. Like that's a lot. And then the whole seat, it has to be a few 100 feet of cord. So I can't imagine how much you'd need for a bench that is 4+ feet long. Going through all that, that's just going to add up quite a bit.
Mhm.
But Mark mentioned last time we recorded golf gloves, which give you some protection and still a lot of tactile feel. So I passed that on to our Mark, to Mark with a C, Spagnolo.
Yeah,
Um,
from K to C.
yeah, from K to C.
Yeah.
And Spagnolo was like, oh, it's not a bad idea. So I don't know if they're going to incorporate that or anything, but if I to do it again, I probably would, just because, and not like my hands got dry, not painful, but there was, just dragging dry cord.
Okay.
There's a lot of little static, little fibrous kind of stuff going on. But no,
Hmm.
I would say definitely. I think it was $100 for the whole kit, and 100% everything besides the drill and the hammer is included. Sandpaper, tape, glue, finish, everything is all included in that.
Hmm.
It's a really cool DIY, gateway drug kind of project.
I think they're calling those something MIY,
Yeah, make it yourself.
make it
Yeah,
yourself,
yeah,
something like that. Yeah. Yeah. So,
and perfectly presented. I mean, it like came in a nice box wrapped in paper, glue, like with a sticker
mhm.
closing it together, and everything was portioned in its own way. I mean, it's really, really well done.
Cool.
Yeah. So I mean, I'd like to now try it again. Should I ever build a proper seat, I wouldn't mind, or chair, I should say,
Mhm.
to do a woven seat. Now just having that little bit of experience, I think would make it a little more comfortable for me.
Yeah.
The way that wraps are done, if you have a wrap that's a little bit loose, like, will it kind of work itself where it's all?
That's what I think. I imagine over some time that the seat will sag in a small bit, because it's pretty damn tight. When I was weaving those last weaves, I mean, it was getting a flathead screwdriver to help it along, because the cross weaving is that tight when you're going through. So there's a lot of built-in tension in the frame with the cord, but I'm assuming the cord will get pushed down slightly, which will only tighten the frame, at the same time, because everything's very enacted. Everything goes around and up and back again to basically pull itself together
Mhm.
all at the same
Yeah,
time.
because this little stool, it didn't have any stretchers or anything. It's just 4 legs,
Well,
and that's it, right?
no, there's stretchers below as well.
Oh, there are?
So
Oh,
the frame is solid. There's
okay.
stretchers probably 7/8 the length down. They're really close to the ground, but enough that when I'm sitting on it, I can rest my heels on them.
Okay, gotcha.
Um,
Okay.
and it's really cool. Yes, like it was a spalted maple that they sent, so it's got a little like gray and clean stuff going through it. It has a cool kind of just visual appeal.
Cool.
Yeah, but yeah. Kyle, how about you? You making any stools?
No,
Oh, that's all right.
I'm doing boring, labor-intensive, monotonous work. I think
Yeah.
last time I mentioned I'm making all the little wooden parts for my jig.
Uh-huh.
So I think at this point, I'm trying to make enough to last me the entire year. So I think at least a good 9 months.
Okay.
But anyway, so this time I was really good with the blocks I use for the angle gauges for my seat drilling guide. Only lost one of those, which was really good out of the almost 40 I made. So then I'm doing the little wooden riser blocks I have on the spindle drilling guide. So I have both the standard spindle drilling guide and the large spindle drilling guide. So there's like 2 different riser blocks for the movable carriage and 1 riser block that's standard across all of them for the fixed carriage. And so I've been making just gobs of those, but I got them all milled to the correct thickness and height, got them all cut, and got them all roughly sanded along the edges. So because I use all kinds of setup blocks for these, so I don't want any little wood fiber around the edges to, move the piece any when I'm drilling. So I got all that sanded, and so now I just got to drill holes. So, and then those will all be roughed out, and then I move on to the stretcher drilling guide. So, and that's the one that takes the most work because that's all turn parts and stuff like that. So anyway.
Very cool.
Yeah, but so far so good. It's it's nothing to. I did a couple of posts about it, but it's nothing really to post unless you want to see a lot of little wood blocks around. But hopefully another couple of weeks I'll be done. We'll see. I was hoping to be done by the end of this month, but life gets in the way sometimes.
Yeah,
Everything going on.
how much of an increase in production is that? for you? I mean, what's a
I'm
normal
just
batch that you've done before?
Yeah, no, good point. I was going to bring that up. Thanks for asking. Yeah, normally I make all my jigs in batches of 5.
Oh,
I do,
okay.
so I do 5 at a time. Now, for the last couple of years, I've made the little wooden components. I made extras of those, but nowhere near the volume I made this time. I think last year I made like 20 of everything, and that was really nice. So I go, okay, this year, since I have some great data on what my sales figures are, so I'm kind of anticipating demand, assuming demand stays flat. So I'm just making as many as I can so I can do that, because it's real nice to have it. Now, all the metal parts and stuff like that, I'll still order those in batches of 5, but at least I won't have to quote unquote make anything once the parts come in. I can just be more of a assembly line type work, so to speak. Of course, all the ones, they do require some machining and stuff like that. I have to drill holes in the metal parts and all that stuff, but it's not too bad. Usually I can knock all that out in about a day. So
Nice.
yeah.
I mean, I know it's monotonous, but you do
Hey.
this to yourself, so.
Well, I'm hoping to do
pretty
it this
party.
way, so I'm not, I don't get in the middle of something and have to stop everything and do this. So hopefully I can make some chairs, because I got a buddy of mine that's going to be retiring. So I promised him a rocker.
Oh, did you now?
Yeah, I didn't say when I was going to give it
Okay,
to him,
yeah.
but I did promise him
Yeah.
one. So I need to
Yeah.
at least get started.
I
So-
promised my niece and nephew a blanket chest, and I think he's in 8th grade now. So just saying.
It's always exciting.
Yeah, it'll
That's right.
maybe when he goes off to college. We'll see.
Yeah. But anyway, that's where we are. So so Brian, what are you working on in your shop?
So we took advantage of our snow days to rearrange the shop and make room for a new CO2 laser that we.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, we had one that was piggybacked to the CNC,
Mhm.
but it meant that we had the CNC tied up whenever we were using the laser. So got a dedicated machine, but it was nice to get the opportunity to rearrange the shop, even though it's kind of a pain in the rear to do.
Yeah.
No, nice.
Yeah, I saw the post where you got that. It looks like they just kind of slid it off the back of the truck and go, here you go. Good luck with that.
Yeah. It's definitely a learning curve. It's a new one for us, and it's challenging and fun.
Now,
I mean, is that a big rabbit hole to go down when you get something like that, where you have to learn a great deal about it to set in the setup process and getting it right, and all that.
So we went through, this is our 3rd laser over the years, and we got like a little Amazon cheapy guy, and piddled with it, so it was this sort of baby steps on kind of the size of the machine, and the learning curve was, it's not terrible. You just, there's all sorts of resources out there if you're looking for them to
Oh,
go.
of course.
But you're gonna spend some time trying to get through the language and the lingo and learn what settings are.
Mm-hmm.
But just like
Now, how big is this laser?
It's all metric, so it's 1,300 millimeters by 900 millimeters. So that's I think that's somewhere around 51 inches by, I don't know. I got it. I can fit 4 foot wide by a third of a 4x8 sheet of plywood. So
there you go. Yeah, 1,300 is just under 50 inches,
Yeah.
just over 51 inches to say. So yeah, roughly a little 4x8 width size, to room to go through. It's
That's
pretty cool.
big.
That is
So
big. Yeah, jeez.
it's
Yeah,
a good
it's
size
huge.
machine. Yeah, I think I overdid it on that one, but
So what were your plans for this machine? What are y'all going to be using it for?
in the past we've done like some personalization, like we'll take projects and we'll do some little personalizations for people, because a lot of the stuff we sell is we'll do it in either farmers markets or Etsy or whatever, and for friends, obviously. So there's an opportunity to do some personalizations and little slogans and stuff on some of the products that we make.
But little slogans on a big machine. The capacity is not going to be used.
Yeah, well, if you're cutting out of it allows us to batch out some stuff. So if we're making like
I get it.
a Christmas ornament, you cut a 4x8 sheet into thirds and you slide the whole thing in, and and then off you go, and you can cut that whole piece up. And
It doesn't quite directly apply, but it fits within the I'd rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it.
It's about 90% of that. And 10%. I can see some actual utility out of it.
Sure. You could also take a nap on it. So
Yeah.
It is the size of a daybed.
it is. Yeah. Right.
Wow.
When he bought it, I was like, so is this going outside?
Yeah. How
Because
are we
in
fitting
our
this?
garage, right? Like there's literally no space for anything. So we had to replan the entire garage.
I had
Uh-huh.
to
Now, how thick of a piece of wood can it cut through?
about 3/4 of it.
Wow. That's
Of like solid wood, like if I solid slab of hardwood. Oh, that's cool.
Slow enough.
And I mean, are you using it for cutting like that, or are you doing it like you said for decoration or you're etching?
No, we do a little bit like the Christmas ornaments will be, you'll cut out the profile on it and then you'll do the engraving on it for the personalization. Those are, they're neat. They fit in like a little post, like a Christmas card type thing. You can stick it in an envelope, but it's thin plywood that we're using. But I haven't had the need or utility to actually cut out anything that thick yet.
You're right. And I assume even that would take a little bit of time.
Yeah, the thicker it is, the slower it's going to be.
Multiple passes. And
Yeah. Yeah. And I assume you have to vent this thing outside or something like that.
Like we're still getting it set up. I've had my garage filled up with smoke, testing it out a couple times because I don't have that hole plumbed into the back wall yet.
Yeah. And you got fire extinguishers strategically placed around the machine.
That was part of the reorganization of the shop was hanging a second fire extinguisher in the back close to it. Yeah.
Yeah. I was going through my shop just a couple of days ago and went, time to replace this fire extinguisher because I don't think I can recharge it, but it's right there on the line between good and bad. So anyway, so what else are you working on?
We've got a presentation coming up for the local woodworking club, the Woodworking Club of Houston.
Mm-hmm.
For the February meeting, we're going to be presenting on a Rubo bench that we built. And at the same we built it about a year ago, and at the same time I bought Benchcrafted's hardware from Mox and Vice.
Yep.
We'll never put it together, so this is my motivation to finally get that Mox and Vice built so that I can bring it in and show it with the Rubo bench.
Now, how long have you had this hardware for the Moxon?
I think we picked it up about this time a year ago.
Okay. I got you beat. I got hardware for a high vice plus the wooden blanks for the high vice. Yeah. I think I'm going on 2 years at least.
I think when I got mine,
this is why I'm batching out stuff. So
yeah, so you can do these things. Yeah.
Yes.
My Mox and Vice was built probably within a month. I went and all I needed was some 8/4 ash to put it together, but that was a quick project and used directly. They're great. So when you have it, use it.
So doing this presentation, you're gonna have to break your bench down and take it up there.
Yep. We don't have to. We were kind of teetering back and forth as to whether just bring. We did lots of photos while we were doing it, and those are a lot easier to carry on a USB thumb drive.
Yeah, exactly.
Breaking this thing down, but we can break it down. It's
okay.
We use their knockdown version, and we can take it apart if we have to. So we're going to try it once because that's how we built it.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that goes at least once.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I noticed in your Instagram y'all do have a gantry crane, so I'm sure that could come in handy. Of course, then you got to tote the gantry crane up there too. So yeah, it only works one way. But anyway, I'm kind of jealous because I've been looking at gantry cranes. I just can't justify the cost yet.
We got that thing for about $400.
Yeah, that's not bad. That's not bad.
It's crazy. We found a crazy deal at Northern.
Yeah, I need to keep my tabs on the used market and see if I can't score something there. But yeah, the ones I've been seeing are like $800 plus I want to do an electric hoist on it, so that's another at least $200 to get a decent one. So yeah. Anyway, so with that, Maria, what are you working on in your shop or your side of the shop?
My side of the shop has been covered with junk, so I haven't really been able to work on it since I got back. But early January, Brian and I went up to visit with Frank Straza to learn marquetry because I had this project that I wanted to complete, and I had reached out to him a little over a year ago to see if he had any time because he's never in Texas. Like he teaches everywhere else.
Exactly.
I asked, do you have any availability during like my school break or like, during winter break. And he remembered later on that I had asked him if he had any time for that, and sent me a message, and we got together that first week of January. I have a friend who graduated with her master's in music. And so for her graduation present, I wanted to make her a box with a marquetry project of her hand playing violin. And I've never done marquetry before. And I sent a drawing to Frank because he's seen my drawings before. And he was very hesitant.
Because you were inexperienced, or
this is really complex.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, because I've never done it before, but I also have a lot of skill with like fine motor skills. So I didn't think it would be. Yes, I thought it would be challenging, but I didn't think that it was like not doable. And so I got up there and we started it, and it was doable. I thought I did all right. So I have like 3 fingers complete, and then I have part of the fingerboard and the strings complete. And those 2 pieces, once I get all 5 fingers, I can then fuse the fingerboards together. So now that we've kind of cleared up the shop and I have the bench back, I can start, getting through organizing all the pieces of veneer. And we had to go buy some more wood because I've run out of like skin tone. So we had to go buy some pear and some apple and a couple of other shades to make some veneer in the shop. So I imagine I'll probably be making some veneer. And then
yeah.
So you're making your own veneer then? You're not buying the commercial stuff? Okay. A little bit thicker. Yeah.
Frank teamed up with Mark Spagnolo, and he had that class come out, the little course on marquetry.
And
I watched that before, and he suggested to cut your own veneer, like 1/16 of an inch, because it's a little bit. It holds better. It holds together better, and the sliced veneer is really fragile to work with, and you can work with it, but it's more fragile. So when we were up at the shop, he showed us how he cuts his veneer, and he cut up some pieces for us, so we can do it at the shop now that we have some more wood.
Yeah. What now? Or what are you using to cut the veneer?
Our bandsaw.
Your bandsaw. Okay.
So you're not losing a ton of material cutting 16.
No.
Okay. No, that's good.
Okay. Well, I meant when you're actually cutting the veneer shapes, what are you using? Are you using like a scroll saw? Are you using a Chevrolet? If you need a Chevrolet, I know a guy that has one. That'd make you a great deal on it. Just let me know.
So he uses a fret saw. So that's he actually gave me a fret saw because I bought one, but he didn't really like the brand that I bought. So he's like, no, use this one. This one's better.
There you go.
And you use, 2/0 blades on it, tooth blades, and you do it all by hand. So I had to make, like, before I went up there, I wanted to try out his marquetry class and just make a little demo of something based on what I saw. So I had to make the donkey's ear first, and then set that up, and then I had a jeweler's saw because I taught jewelry, and I took jewelry classes in college. So I put a fret saw in my jeweler's saw, and just did the best I could based on what I saw, and it worked. Everything worked. So I have like the equipment set up to do it now because we also have a scroll saw. I can kind of follow the steps again, the procedure. You have to angle the donkey's ear at a certain angle.
Right, because that's the dual bevel technique that he teaches, which I assume that's part of it, is having the material at that angle and then sawing vertically against it to make that bevel,
right,
and keeping that consistent throughout. Although the way it's done, as I understand it, even if there's variance, where the variance is the same between the 2 pieces, and they'll just fall into each other.
Correct.
Which is awesome. I love that technique.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it worked great, and we tried it on the scroll saw too. I think he does most of the work on the scroll saw, and then for like little itty bitty pieces that are really delicate, he'll go back to the fret saw.
Yeah.
Did he have the big foot powered? I don't know what that is considered.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
So he had that frame.
It's a big frame thing. Yeah.
We've seen that at the woodworking show previous year, but we didn't see it. He had the Chevrolet in the living room, and he had the scroll. He had all of that, but not that big frame saw. We didn't see it out.
He had that at Handwork.
Yeah.
Mhm.
What was that? 2 years ago? Last year? Time flies. And his kid was just humming on it, talking to people, just cutting out names and stuff. Or what? Who was it? There was a younger boy. It wasn't Frank. It was somebody else.
Yeah, I think it was last year's Texas Woodworking Festival. He said, Kyle, come here, try this out. So I tried it out, and I'm like, sort of going, and then I'm like, okay, I'm done here. And then his son gets back on it, and his son just
Hey, when you grow up with that tool in your living room,
exactly.
you're pretty good at it.
It's a coordination thing, it's like rubbing your belly and chewing gum at the same time.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I tried it, and I, for some reason, thought he would have that out, and was kind of dreading it because I wasn't very good on that thing. But he didn't have it out.
Yeah.
It was a relief.
Well, cool. Yeah, he does some good stuff. Well, so before we go any further, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into woodworking? Let's start with you, Brian.
My dad was a residential carpenter. So we always had that kind of in the background. We always had job site construction, wood, hammers, nails, that sort of thing going.
Mm-hmm.
And on the weekend, it was always PBS on the TV on Saturday morning. So it was Norm and Roy Underhill, and we watched those shows, and he complained he could do that if he had a shop with all those tools, and it's and whenever I got older, we'd build some stuff. I'm striking out on my own and needed some furniture. I think one time I don't have any drawers. I've got a mattress on the ground. I'd like to build something. And so, he went and borrowed a table saw from a buddy of his, and we built a set of captain's drawers for the bed, and just stuff like that. So that was the biggest exposure. And then there was a point shortly after I was out of school. I was working. My grandparents had a wholesale nursery, and they'd asked me to come back to Texas and set up a tree farm for them. And part of setting that up, we had built a big shop so that we could work in, planting plants and trees and stuff whenever it was raining. But there was a lot of excess space in there, so I got to kind of use that to start buying some woodworking tools and set up a shop. And this was early 2000s, and I bought a 3 horsepower Grizzly table saw. That was my first kind of big boy tool, and it kind of went from there. And people saw that I was enjoying it, and I wasn't making much money back then, so I had a lot of people helping me out, buying me tools, and the big stuff I'd get, the table saw I got, and the joiner I got. But my dad, he got me a planer, and my brother bought me a router, and got to build a router table for it. And then through kind of life changes and moves and stuff, I lost access to the shop until we bought this house. It was maybe, I guess, 14 years ago or so, 15 years ago. We bought this house, and it's got a great garage for a shop. So we moved in, and within a few years, we started setting shop back up again.
Yeah, we'll get into that shop because it's pretty impressive you got there. Pretty nice. Well, cool. Now, what do you do for a living?
I'm an engineer in the oil and gas space. I'm in Houston, so it's kind of a requisite.
Okay.
Me and 80% of the rest of the population here is.
Yeah, you're either in the medical industry or in oil and gas. That's about it.
Yep.
Well, cool. Well, Maria, so tell us a little bit about yourself and how you grew up and how you got into woodworking.
So I was born in Puerto Rico, and we moved to Texas when I was about 6 or 7 years old.
Okay.
My parents were both doctors, and I think they kind of started seeing the economy in Puerto Rico change, and I think they just wanted out. And so they moved to Texas, and I've just been here ever since. I haven't moved since. So
okay. Houston area?
Houston. Well, we moved to Sugar Land.
Okay.
We moved to Houston early on, but it was a short time, and then we settled in Sugar Land.
Mm-hmm.
my dad was always kind of a handy guy. He grew up, his father was a mechanic, and he had he worked boats, like he would repair giant houseboats, and they lived on a marina, and my uncle was a mechanic for the boat shop, and they had a hardware store attached to the gas station that they all owned. And my uncle was like a really handy, like he could make anything. He could build machines. He could use an engine to make something cool. He did woodworking too. And so, my dad was not, he wasn't into that. He was obviously became a physician afterward, but he grew up in that and was always kind of handy, and he was a little bit cheap. And so he didn't like paying people to come and fix things in the house. So if he could learn how to do it, he would do it. And so we did a lot of DIY stuff. And I remember being like really little and helping them glue down like wood floors in our house, and like pull carpeting back and paint things and install trim and just silly things like that. And they were really encouraging to me as a kid, because I was a really creative kid, and I always was, my head was in something. Like I wanted to learn how to knit, and then I wanted to learn how to grow tomatoes. And, I was always in some kind of a maker project. And so they would buy me like all the little kits, and I'd learn how to make all this stuff. And from there, I had this love of art. My mom did not like that I had this passion for art. So I wanted to take art lessons when I was in junior high, and you could only take one elective. And so she was like, you should take music. I'll pay for private art lessons, but you should take music. So I learned how to play the cello, and I can still play a little bit. But I didn't get that out of my system. I didn't get the art out of my system. So in high school, my senior year, I decided I'm going to do art. I don't want to play music. I don't want to be in the medical industry. I just want to make art. And so after high school, I graduated, and that's what I wanted to do. I went to art school. I stayed there way too long. I learned every single art class you could possibly take. My parents were like, you need to graduate. You could have had a PhD by now. And there were some issues with college. Like my focus was ceramics and sculpture and jewelry smithing. And in the middle of the semester, my ceramics professor passed away, and I didn't know if they were going to renew the program. And so I was like scrambling to figure out what to do. I kind of hip hopped around the architecture department, interior design, graphic design. I went everywhere. And then my mom was like, just be a teacher. You know how to do everything. Just be a teacher. So I finished my degree in art, had gotten a teaching certification, and then landed a job teaching. And then I became a stay-at-home mom because my first year of teaching, I got pregnant. Our oldest son. And then I quit teaching for about 6 years. And while I was, quit teaching, I became a cake designer, like a little pastry chef cake designer. And I built sculptural cakes for people because I couldn't do ceramics. I didn't want to expose a newborn to like silicates and all the dust and stuff, and it's just dangerous. So I did that, and then the economy started kind of going back and forth with oil and gas, and we were about to hit a recession. I was like, I should probably go back to teaching, because if Brian gets laid off, we're not going to have health insurance. So I went back to teaching and got a job at a junior high, and now I'm a high school teacher at a school district really close to me.
What do you teach?
I teach everything. So I can I'm certified to teach all different things in art. This year I'm teaching drawing, ceramics. We have something called AP 2D design, which is a college level course, and AP drawing. So I also teach that. Last year I taught painting, and we have all levels of all of these art classes. I even taught fashion design the first year that we opened, because I'm apparently the only one with experience in fashion. So, but it's, college, I took a lot of odd jobs, a lot of creative jobs. And I think that really helped with the transition into this new hobby. When I started kind of getting more into woodworking after I gave Brian a lathe, like the intention was good. Like I wanted to give him a gift, but I also was a little bit selfish because I wanted to learn how to use a lathe. And the mini lathe that I saw was like I don't know, it was like less than $300. It was affordable.
Yep.
So I got him that for Christmas, and then he played on it for a little while. And then once he kind of like got a little bored of it,
I made all the pins I could make. And,
I took over, and then I started making little things on it. And one of my coworkers asked me if I could make a gavel, and I was like a court gavel, like a judge's gavel, and he's like, yeah. And then he explained he's a Freemason, and his dad's also a Freemason, and they had this Masonic lodge, and his dad was like earning this honor, and part of that honor, and I don't know anything about Freemasonry, so I'm sorry for all the Freemasoners that I don't know, but the way that he explained it was that he was getting this gift as an honor, and this gavel had to have a specific design, and everything had some kind of meaning behind it. And so he showed me pictures of like his gavel and the size that he wanted. He told me like, okay, well, the handle needs to have like 7 stripes to symbolize this particular thing. And then you have to have coins embedded in the head of the gavel, and they have to be facing this particular way. And so I was like, yeah, I can make that. Sure,
not a problem.
So I told Brian, and Brian's like, what's wrong with you? You don't know how to make that. I'm like, we can figure it out. I'm sure it's not that hard. So I took the plans. He gave me like the Texas Senate gavel plans or something like that. And I kind of worked with those. And I just found some maple. He wanted it in walnut, but I didn't want to mess up the walnut that we had because it was really highly figured. So I started in like hard maple, since it's kind of similar the way it turns. And I made a handle. And then I turned the head of the gavel, and the head was like really complicated because it had to be flat in the middle. So like most gavels are rounded like a cylinder.
Right.
But the center of this one had to be flat so you could put the coins in. So I had to have like a square, like a cube in the center, and then the rounded end. And that to me was like super hard. So I practiced on a bunch of different pieces of wood, and then I finally figured out how to do it. And then I turned it on the walnut, and I didn't mess up the walnut, which was nice. And then we figured out how to like wedge it together, and then we had to embed the coins. And then I realized as we were putting the coins into the 5-minute epoxy that it was turned the wrong way, and we had to like wedge it out really quick with a screwdriver. And it was such a panic moment because he didn't have any more coins, and I didn't know like how easy it was to get these coins. Like, I don't know if you have to, I don't know. So I panicked. And so, but we got it out, we cleaned it up, and then we set them correctly. And that was like the first commission that kind of sparked this desire to keep working in this medium, and, and keep making things together in the shop because we work pretty well together. He curses a lot in the shop. I don't.
Hey, you got to do that.
It cleanses the soul.
Oh, that's right. You got to let it out.
You got to get it out.
Yeah. It's either that or you're throwing tools.
Mm-hmm.
Well, cool. Well, that's interesting. So the benefits of slow setting epoxy at this.
Yeah.
You realize that, yeah. I
didn't think I would need it, and it was like we had a couple of days to get it done. It was kind of a quick turnaround. So yeah, maybe not again.
Yeah. Well, cool. Well, tell us about your business. So, the Heartwood Woodshop. So, how'd y'all get started in that? And tell us a little bit about some of the stuff y'all sell.
So how we got started, like a lot of people, we started making gifts.
Mm-hmm.
And that was for a lot of years. That was kind of we'd pick a project for Christmas that we'd give to coworkers, we'd give to family, and we'd make these in batches. And it turned, at a point we're making over 50 plus of whatever XYZs it is a year. And every year we'd find that'd be our excuse to get a new tool for that, right? But it's, giving away stuff and buying tools is expensive. So we just wanted to, I don't know if we wanted to make money. We just wanted to lose less of it.
You needed something to pay for the tools, right?
Yeah. And, we'd originally started up. Maria got us a branding iron with M plus B. So it was Maria plus Brian. We were. I made the joke, my initials are Brian Murrah, so I've had the initials of BM. We're not going to go that route. I know what that means. that's what my mom called it whenever we had to make. Hey, you make a BM, no, we're not going to use those initials. So we did M plus B. But then whenever we started to, we decided to make it an ongoing concern. We thought we'd have problems with the plus sign for like web addresses and Instagram, anything that was digital. So we changed it to Heartwood Woodshop and went from there. As far as what we sell, most of what we're selling is like e-commerce type stuff that we can batch out. It's going to be like one of the most popular things we sell is a deviled egg board. Right? We just put it up on the CNC, cut it out, sand it out, and it holds 12.5 deviled eggs.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
That's one of those things that a lot of this stuff is stuff we do for ourselves. It was something I'd made for us, and I'm like, well, I don't know if anybody's going to buy this, but let's toss it out there and see how that goes. And people seem to like it. So we'll do stuff on Etsy, and we've got a website that we sell on. We've sold a couple things through Amazon and a couple things through Go Imagine. There's anyways where we can try to find a market for it online, and then we'll do like farmers markets and stuff. But the farmers markets are a lot more fun because we get to go and we get to meet people, and we get to do a lot more of like our one-off type stuff. Anything we're doing online, if you're going to take pictures of it, you need to be able to batch it out. It needs to be pretty close to the same.
Yeah, exactly.
Otherwise, you're doing photography for each individual item, and that's it's pretty time consuming to get all the photography set up.
Yeah.
So anytime we're doing like one-offs, like Murrah does a lot of rolling pins, and they're all individual. She'll make some clay pots and cups and stuff, and we'll bring stuff like that. Just some of the more unique stuff, and then we'll backfill in the space that we have with some of the batched out stuff.
Cool. Yeah. I noticed some of the stuff y'all have. It looks amazing. Looks fantastic, and I love this box wine holder. That's pretty unique.
Yeah, that's a lot of fun, and like we don't sell any of it. And it's really kind of funny the difference between making a market in person and what you do online. Like we sell quite a few of those online.
Mm-hmm.
We sell none of those in person. We've got some other things that we only sell in person. We've got some like wine bottle displays that we only sell in person. We don't sell any online. There's some things that people have to be able to see and touch to make a connection with, and other things it doesn't matter to them. So online is a little easier.
And that was we designed ourselves. We had seen some box wine holders that were like too expensive to make.
Mm-hmm.
So we sat down and made designs in CAD or whatever, and it seemed to work out. We made like 2 prototypes, one with legs, one without.
We made 3 prototypes, all of them with legs. And yeah, the kind of market, we did see some others out there, and they're either way far on one end of the spectrum or way low on the other end of the spectrum, and we found something that we liked and worked for us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's nice. So the rolling pins, you said those are pretty individualized as far as what you make and stuff. I assume these are all turned pins, and I noticed y'all have the laser engraving on the pins. Now that's pretty interesting. How does that work? I'm not that familiar with laser engravings, but putting that on a round object like that.
Yeah, he had to reverse engineer a rotary on the laser, because we have a rotary, but it wasn't long enough for the pins.
Oh, okay.
Like it would get jammed up, and so Brian had to take this whole thing apart. Who had made that rotary?
Well, it was a smaller one that's made for like laser engraving, like tumblers and stuff like that. So we just broke it down and extended it out so that it would be able to hold a rolling pin. So we've gotten a few, and those are customizations on those. The bulk of them we sell don't have those, but those were specific for a couple of restaurants that wanted more displays. Because once you engrave in it, you really don't want to roll with it. You wouldn't use it. It's not something you use.
Yeah, because I assume it's a little indented where the letters are and stuff. Yeah,
but it's neat. They put them up on the wall and hung them up, and it was kind of cool.
Yeah, that is really cool. So tell me, what types of have y'all made furniture and stuff like that? for yourself and stuff like that. So what's some of the favorite projects y'all made for yourselves?
Well, the first piece we made was a couch. We had this sectional that I bought before the kids were even born, and it was a white couch. And that couch had seen all kinds of things, all kinds of spills, all kinds of accidents. The cushions, you could remove them and wash them, which was great. But over time, like, you know, the stuffing gets old and stuff. And so we sent it off to get it reupholstered. And while, you know, we were planning all of that out, Brian thought, well, we should build a couch, like a platform for the couch, because we have this dog that loves to hide under beds and couches and stuff. And she'll go and find like highlighters and chew them up and leave them underneath the couch. And we couldn't get her out of the couch. And so we decided to do the platform so she couldn't get under it, because our couch was elevated with like 4-inch legs prior to that. So we built this platform for it and put like plugs in it so that we could charge stuff, like little USB plugs. And it was a little complicated because part of our sectional has like the bed that comes out. And so we had to figure out how to like reinforce it so that it wouldn't, because it's also taller than the original. But we have to figure out how to reinforce it so it wouldn't just like break and like be able to open and actually be usable.
Yeah.
So that was a fun project. When it finally got reupholstered and everything went in, everything was perfect. And then we made a dining room table out of walnut. It's a really hefty, thick, heavy table. Kind of mid-century. It has like a chamfered edge with tapered legs. And we were trying to find dining room chairs to go for that. And it was really hard because all the chairs that I liked were like over $1,000 a piece. And that was not within our budget at the time.
Yeah, we'd set a $500 a chair budget for 6 chairs. So we were looking at about $3,000. And, you know, that for, you know, well-made chairs, that didn't go very far.
Right.
But we were actually, and that kind of led us, we were at the Texas Woodworking Festival a couple of years ago, and Maria saw Blake Laurie's Ember chair. This is the chair that has to go to our dining table, or our breakfast table. But it was still out of our budget. And it's like, so she was talking to Joe Bass, who was kind of manning his booth with, and Joe's like, yeah, he's got a class coming up. So I think she signed up for the class.
I signed up for that class that night. And it was like during the school year. So you can't take off 5 days as a teacher. Like that's like a big ask. But I did not ask. I just signed up, and I texted my principal and I told her like how important it was that I take this class. That it was like this once in a lifetime opportunity to learn from, like, because it was at Greg Pennington's shop.
Yeah.
And I was like over the moon. I was like, you don't understand, like, this is the coolest thing I will ever do, ever. And she's like, do it. So we had to figure out how to do the absences for me, but I took off 5 days of work and drove up to Nashville and took the class. And it was super cool. It was the chair was beautiful. Pennington's place is awesome. Blake is a great instructor. That whole experience was wonderful. And so I made a chair, and we had one chair with like 5 other IKEA chairs next to them for a really long time. And then
and so, Maria, which chair did you sit in when y'all were eating?
Yeah, right.
The joke is, right, like, she had such a good time at that class. I'm like, well, I want to go take this class. So whenever he had another class in March of last year, I went up to his place up in Waco, and I took his class. And between the 2 classes and accommodations and travel and everything else, we blew our budget, and we still ended up with only two chairs. So there's her chair, there's my chair, and
4 IKEA chairs.
And 4 IKEA chairs.
Well,
we did have like we you know, part of it is having to get the lumber for it, like trying to find air dried walnut in Texas with you know, a big slab of it to make 4 extra chairs is so hard. and it took a while to source that. But we found some air dried walnut slabs, and we finally got them in the garage, and so pretty soon we'll start making some chairs. We have Blake's new plans.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, so she made version 1 of that chair. I made version 2, and the plans we have are for version 3 of it. He was telling us, he's like, you guys will have all 3 versions of this once you get
Yeah, that's kind of neat.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is cool. That is cool. Well, good. So where'd you source the walnut from? Was it, I know, there's a place in Pennsylvania that sells it, but that's all I know.
There's a guy, his name's Jason. He owns Helmwood Furniture, and he does urban lumber in the Houston area.
Okay.
Now, of course, he didn't find the walnut in the Houston area. He picked that up somewhere up north, and he brought it down and sawed it up. And he just happened to have it kind of air dry and waiting for it to go into his kiln. He's got a couple sawmills up in Spring. He's got a couple of kilns, and mostly he sells all the stuff, but it's mostly supplies and furniture. Super nice guy, and beautiful wood. But I called him, and he's like, in about 3 months, I'm gonna have some stuff that's ready. It's sitting in stickers, air dry and waiting to go in the kiln, and it'll be ready to go in the kiln. So if you're here whenever I start unstacking that to get it in the kiln, I'll sell some of it to you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, you just call me and let me know. And we were there, and we bought 2 slabs of it. They're about 21 inches, because we're trying to do a single piece, seat joint. So we got enough to make the six chairs.
Nice.
Wow, that's awesome.
Nice.
Yeah.
That is cool. Yeah. Yeah, you could do it with the kiln dried stuff, but yeah, it's hard to carve.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It takes a lot. Anyway, don't ask me how I know. Okay. It can be done, but is it worth it? Probably not. Probably not. Well, so what furniture styles influence your work?
I mean, for our personal style that we
Mhm.
like to have in our house, it's more like mid-century modern.
Okay.
'Cause it kind of goes with everything. It's elegant, but it's also, it's easier to make. There's not a lot of ornamentation that you have to deal with when you're making that kind of furniture. And you can put antiques next to it and it will still look nice together. So Brian and I kind of gravitate more toward that style. He likes like green and shaker furniture.
Mm-hmm.
I tend to like, it's weird because I like 17th century furniture. I wouldn't put it in my house, but like if I go to an antique shop or a museum, I am like so impressed by all of the craftsmanship that goes into those things, but it's not something I would make, it's like I deep appreciation, but not necessarily for me.
Yeah, I think most of we're attracted to the more simple furniture, cleaner lines, without a lot of ornamentation or decoration.
Yeah,
we're both aligned.
Except when you get into that green stuff, because that's all ornamentation.
Cloud lifts and plugs and stuff.
Exactly. I went through my green phase, and it's pretty cool stuff. I love that stuff. Now tell us a little bit about your design process as far as some of the stuff that y'all are making and how that works. Go ahead.
Everything's born out of something we need or we want in our house. Even the stuff we're selling online. It's like the rolling pins Maria makes. She made our youngest son likes to bake and she likes to cook. So she made kind of mommy and son rolling pins. He had one, and they were matching rolling pins. One was, one's at about 12 inches wide, and hers is, about 20 inches wide, just so it fit his hands and he could join in. So the deviled eggs was something we did for ourselves. The wine box was something we did for ourselves. All these things are stuff. It's born out of something we use or like. Almost always, not always, but almost always.
We try to make it look a little nicer than what you would find at a regular store. Something a little more elevated, but not so pretentious that you can only put it out for parties.
Yeah, something you can actually use.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, does any of your background in art and ceramics play into any of the design elements that you
Yeah, I
come up
tend
with?
to be the one that draws
Mhm.
all of the design.
Yeah, we're going to get into your drawings here in a minute.
Brian, and bless his heart, he tries so hard to draw things for me, but I teach, like I teach. I've taught little kids and big kids, and when he draws, I just don't understand it. I can't see it, so it's like a mental block, I guess.
Okay, so don't invite y'all over for a Pictionary party or something like that. Then.
Yeah, no.
He's a great guesser.
I'd be a great guesser.
Yeah.
Oh, but if you're a great artist, that's like the cheat code. Like, come on.
So yeah, I tend to do all the design work because I draw really well isometrically, thanks to all the college classes that I got to take with technical drawing and stuff. So, but yeah, all the design work usually falls on me, and then Brian gets to figure out how to actually engineer it and make it. Because I'm still really new to woodworking. I don't have the same background that he does, the same experience he does with joinery and things like that. I'm still really new to that. So I'm learning kind of as we make projects, which is fun because he gets to teach me all the things that I want to know, but I don't know how to start, and then I can kind of clean up some of the, like chisel work and things like that. I'm really good with that stuff.
Yeah, whenever it comes to the projects we're working on, she's a lot more, she's into the details and making sure it comes out looking really, really nice. And I'm, kind of big picture of it, getting it built and getting it put together.
Yeah,
it's put together well.
Yeah, that makes sense. Now, well, that kind of dovetails into my next question about your woodworking education. So, obviously, Brian, you've been woodworking a lot longer, and you came from a family that had somewhat of a woodworking background, at least a construction type background. So how did you learn some more, I guess, woodworking techniques outside of the construction background?
Like I mentioned before, it was Saturdays watching PBS.
Okay.
It was the woodworking shows. That's where a lot of us started. And one of the first things I did is I went and grabbed Norm's plans for a router table. Whenever I was setting up shop, grabbed Norm's plans for a router table and built to that. And that was back whenever I got that. It was you sent off for it, and it was a VHS copy and an actual paper set of plans that came. From there it went in. It was books and magazines. Had subscriptions, and you'd find something you wanted to build in a magazine and kind of go from there and learn. There's always a technique or something that they were highlighting, and you go from there. And it wasn't until more recently, whenever working with Murrah, that I got permission to take classes. In fact, one of the first classes I got to take or that I took was a cabinet making class at the local Woodcraft.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's gone now.
Yeah, both the Houston ones are gone.
Yeah.
So that was the very first class I got to take, and then whenever she wanted to take Lori's class, I was excited for her, and then I'm like, I was honestly a little jealous, and she supported me, and whenever I'm like, hey, I might want to take this class for myself, she supported that, and then she wanted to take Straza's class, and like, well, instead of doing this apart, let's see if we can kind of consolidate that and go together. It's per person, head count. It's cheaper for two people to go at the same time than it is for one. And
right.
So one of the things we're doing too is this summer we've got we're signed up for Laura Kishimoto's class at the Austin School of Woodworking.
Oh, nice.
We're both going to that one as well. So I think it's like people, a little bit older. We started with the TV, the magazines, the books, moved into the YouTube, and now we're getting to do some kind of shorter term formal classes with some really good instructors.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so what about yourself, Murrah? Now, you mentioned some of the classes you've caught, but you've kind of come into this a little bit later. Where there's actually more educational, opportunities out there that are easily accessible. Yeah.
Yeah, so YouTube has been a big help. I read a lot. We buy like all of Chris's books.
Mm-hmm.
Like go through them, and we have subscriptions to Fine Woodworking, and I'm just staring at the pages, trying to figure out what I want to make. And so I just kind of like, I love to read. I mean, I'm a very visual learner, so it's helpful for me to get into a book or watch a YouTube video and try to figure it out. I did take a greenwood bowl turning class at the Woodcraft, because when I started on the lathe, bowls scared me. Like, I would listen to all these people say that the bowl's going to fly off and hit you in the face. And I was like, I don't know if I want to do this. So they gave me a blanket. It was like this big. And so that, that was all right. I powered through that. But we have a really big lathe that's set up to do really large bowls. And I want to like work up the courage to do more of that. So I'd like to take another class, like an intermediate level class on bowl turning to kind of get a little more comfortable with it. Other than that, I took the class with Blake and then Frank in the beginning of the year. I'm hoping to take more classes outside of the one with Laura Kishimoto. So anytime I run into a woodworker that I'm fond of, I always ask, like, are you going to teach? Are you going to be in Austin? Are you going to do anything in Houston? Like, I'll travel, but I don't think I could go to like Washington State or like, Canada.
Yeah, I think you guys just had Elizabeth Weber on. And she's so awesome. It'd be fun.
Fantastic.
Getting to the Northwest is tough.
Yeah, I'd like to take a class, a bowl turning class with her. That's exactly right. But yeah, you got to go to a place that's set up for that. That has 6-7 lathes ready to go.
And greenwood.
Yeah, and all that. Yeah. And all that. So yeah, it's kind of, sometimes you're kind of limited in the places that do that teaching. Of course, here I am talking as a non-turner, so I'm sure there's someone in the audience that goes, "Oh, in Texas, you can go here, here, and here."
And that might be. Yeah.
And if you can, please let us know, and we'll make sure to mention that.
There is a wood turners club.
Yeah, there is one in Houston. Yeah,
but I think they're out of Galveston. No, like
I don't know.
Isn't there? So when we have our Woodworkers Club of Houston, there's an event that we do at the Houston Contemporary Craft Museum.
Yeah.
Once a year, and all of the like local craft groups kind of get together, the blacksmiths and the wood turners and the woodworkers and all of the ceramics people, and they just do like an open little meet and greet festival kind of thing. You don't really sell anything, you're just kind of showing off what you do.
Yeah.
And the wood turners were trying to like lure me in to join.
Yeah.
Bring me the dark side.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, I keep running into those blacksmith people too, and it's like it's very tempting until they tell me, when it is. It's outside in the middle of summer, swinging a hammer, and it's like, that just doesn't sound too attractive.
Yeah. Standing next to a furnace,
exactly,
in Texas in the middle of summer is just not my idea of it.
Yeah, exactly. I went and saw a demo not too long ago on glass blowing, and it was fantastic. But they had these huge fans blowing on their little area where the audience sat, to watch them do all this kind of stuff. But man, it was like burning up in there, and it's like, okay, not a hobby for me, but I admire the work. It's fantastic
for sure.
Well, so tell us a little bit about having two woodworkers in the family. So how does that work as far as, shop time, fighting for tools? I guess there's benefits, especially Christmas and birthdays, huh?
It works a lot better than golf did. Like we tried playing golf together. And that was not an activity that we did well together. So this one's a heck of a lot better.
Why is that, Brian? Why was golf?
Oh boy.
Yeah, we're gonna swing back around to woodworking. I've got this, kind of managerial engineering background, and whenever it comes to the shop, like my first instinct is kind of fall on that and manage her a little bit. And I've got to pull myself back on that. Nobody wants to be managed, and it's not, that kind of dynamic it's just not fun. It's not fun for her. It's not fun for me. So, but as long as I'm not doing that, which, I'm pretty good at keeping that under control, we have real good time. I mean, Like I mentioned before, with her doing it, I don't have to feel guilty about, taking a class. If I want to go take a class or I want to spend money on something that's woodworking related, it's not for me, it's for us. There's been years like, the tools, we're putting tools in the shop. The laser was for me, but the lathe, that's her tool. That was a gift for her. We've got a bandsaw in there that's a gift for her, and the original lathe, that was a gift for, so we're kind of able to stock up in the shop and
right.
Yes, and there's that's also a negative part of it. There's nobody here that really puts the brakes on some of this stuff.
Yeah.
Hey, you're thinking about getting this. Like, oh yeah, that sounds like a good idea.
Sure.
Except for the laser. The laser's kind of we weren't eye to eye on that. We made it work. We got it done.
You have a plan, I guess.
Well, it sounds like y'all have a great partnership too, as far as your skill levels. Because Brian, you come from a more engineering background, which a lot of woodworkers do. But Maria, you come from more of an artistic background, so y'all really have some complementary skills to bring to the shop, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean that's right. I mean, where I'm weak, she's really, really strong, and where she's weak, she's only temporarily weak. Once she gets a little further along, she'll be strong in those areas too. But in the meantime, I can kind of help support that.
Yeah,
That's really
cool. Well, so tell us a little bit, Maria, about your illustrations and notes. I mean, when we met at Texas Woodworking Festival, I think it might have been Elizabeth that said, you need to see her notes.
Yeah, so like the first time Brian and I decided to go to the woodworking festival was like 2 years ago. And I brought my sketchbook because I usually take notes when I take the class because I forget everything. I don't have the memory that I had when I was in my 20s. So, and I sketch really quickly. And so I can, look at something that someone's making, sketch it out really quick, jot some notes down, and I can always come back to it and like fill it in. And so I did that with all the presenters that I got to see. I did one with Philip Morley's class. He had one on belt lamination. I did, Lee Nelson had one that was all about planes and different types of planes and what they're used for. And Frank Straza had one. And so I just took notes during the classes and inked them in and then posted them, and it got some traction. And I wasn't like huge on Instagram. I took like a really long hiatus from social media, but after that woodworking thing and Brian and I starting, to get more into it, having to put ourselves out there a little more, I decided to just start posting things a little more frequently. And so when I posted that and tagged everybody, it got some traction and attention. And I just decided to keep doing it. So the next thing that I did was that class with Lori, and I took notes. And I actually made like a book on each day that we were there. And he liked it so much that he asked if I would help like make a little booklet to kind of add to his class. And so I'm kind of still working on that for him, trying to finish that up, which is really, really cool.
Oh, that is nice. Yes.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah, I'm really excited about that. And then when we went back to the woodworking festival this last year, I took a sketchbook again and then took more notes. The only class the only presenter that I could not take notes in was Laura Kishimoto's class, because it was so much information and it was so detailed, and I felt like I couldn't really do it justice if I tried to just slam it all in one session. So I took a lot of pictures and wrote down some stuff, and then I had to come back to it to finish it. But I did take notes for Elizabeth's class or her presentation, and that's been really fun. And then last week, I got a message from Kim McIntyre asking if I could help with a project that she's thinking about having illustrated. And so I told her I'd help her out. So that's really cool. So we'll see how that goes. And this is like my in, I guess.
Well, no, it's great. It's fantastic stuff. And I think this is definitely going to be something to pursue. I know if I was doing something again that required some illustrations, something I would look you up.
Oh, 100%.
It's fantastic stuff. I'm sitting there going, at some point I'm going to have to redo my instructions for my jigs. I might have to call you up and say, hey.
I'm up for it. Yeah.
Pen for
I love-
hire.
I love
Yes.
illustrating tools and doing things, drawing in perspective, drawing isometrically. It's really, it's interesting to me to do that, to be able to like convey something visually for someone quickly.
Mhm.
That's extremely helpful, I think, if you're working one-on-one with a customer.
Well, and you said before that you're a visual learner,
Mhm.
and you have this kind of extensive artistic education background where you learned a ton, and so the fact that you can like just kind of see and put it right to pen is a very powerful skill that you are using, and it's kind of unique to maybe your experiences, and
Mhm.
that's super neat. I mean, I was just scrolling through your Instagram and seeing some of those notebooks, and the detail is fantastic. I mean, if you could sit through a carving class and pick and demonstrate on a pen to paper the differences between all the gouges they mention, and then what that would look like when used on a surface. That's a great mixture of 2D and 3D and physical and just phenomenal. I mean,
Mhm.
for the visual learner, I mean, that is an incredibly important. Like, if you could provide that for, like you're saying, like that's astounding.
Yeah, I do it a lot with teaching. Like right now, my whiteboard has instructions on how to carve a lino block because we're doing some lino cuts. If you don't know what that is, it's a way of cutting kind of a rubberized linoleum surface with a gouge, V gouges and U gouges, to create a relief. So you're carving out the negative space, and whatever is left behind prints with ink.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Yeah.
And so I have to teach
Kind of
my
a custom stamp.
yeah, like a
Like a
customized
stamp.
stamp.
Yeah. Okay.
So I have to teach the students how to do that. And I have a camera to kind of show them, but I can't continue to do a demo over and over for them on a loop because I have to be able to walk around and monitor. So on my whiteboard, I have drawn out like isometric drawings of how to hold the gouge in a particular way, and like using a little stop block on the side of your bench or on the side of your table, and everything's like drawn out with dry erase marker. And so when the kids came in, they were like, whoa, that's exactly what it's supposed to look like.
Uh-huh.
So that
What
was
an ass. I hope your students appreciate what they've got as an instructor. That's phenomenal.
yeah, they're great. All of my classes are great, and my students, this new school that I helped open, I love my kids. They're great kids. Everybody kind of dogs on high school students, but you have like a couple of knuckleheads once in a while, but I haven't had anybody that's like just sent me over the edge where I just want to jump out the window.
Mhm.
Junior high, however, that'll do it to you.
Time you're in high school, you there's a little bit of, I think I know what I want to do. So there's a little more focus on the artistic side, at least. You're
Yeah.
trying to rein in cats in junior high.
Yeah.
There's
I mean,
a
we
little
still have freshmen that are like herding cats, but
Sure.
And
yep.
it's fun watching her sketch and seeing
Yeah.
people's reaction to it. Like she said, she was at we didn't do social media, and then Joe Bass saw, like, I guess kind of looking over her shoulder, saw what she was sketching during one of the presentations, and he's like, "Do you mind if I take pictures of this and post it?" And so he did that, and he posted it, and we found where he'd posted and tagged Maria, and it just kind of went from there. So you got back on social media, Instagram. I got back on, or started on Instagram, and so any of the goofy stuff we post, you can blame it on Joe.
Oh, Joe's a cool guy.
Yeah, Joe's a great guy.
Yeah,
He's awesome.
actually, he's the reason, I think, because I wanted to meet more people at that meet and greet. And I was like, I don't know anybody here. I only know Blake and I only know Joe. And so I went up to Joe and I was like, Joe, I really want to meet Kim McIntyre. Like, I remember her from the last woodworking festival because she had that session on stools. And he was like, oh, I'll take you over there. You got to also meet Elizabeth Weber because her stuff is awesome. Have you seen her bowls yet? And I was like, okay. So he kind of like helped me get over there, to talk to everybody. And that's where you were.
Yeah.
Kyle.
Yeah, I knew Kim. I didn't know Elizabeth before, and I was just like, and I was just, we got along really well. Elizabeth, she's such fun, and it wasn't until like later the next day, I actually went to her Instagram and saw the stuff she was doing. I'm going, holy crap.
It reminds me so
Yeah.
much of ceramics because we do a lot
Yeah.
of there's a lot of similarity with
Yeah.
textures and stuff with ceramic bowls that she's able to produce with wood.
Yeah, it's pretty phenomenal.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's amazing stuff. Well, so tell us about your shop.
Ooh.
So from what our conversation before, you got like a 2-story, 4-car garage shop.
Yeah. So it's like a long garage, right? Like it's 2 and 2, you know,
Yep.
2 in the front, 2 in the back kind of space. Of course, we never put cars in there. I don't even think we put cars in there when we first moved in.
There was like 2 or 3 days
Where we had a car.
Yeah,
and-
but when we hadn't moved anything in, we had a vehicle in it. And that was about it.
There you go. So how much square footage is it roughly? It's got to be.
It's 22 wide by 40 deep, so right around. But there's a stairwell that goes up to the second stairs, and there's, give or take about 800.
So
on the
with
bottom.
yeah, and probably close to that on the top, so close to 1,600. So what are y'all doing upstairs?
It's just storage.
It's mostly just storage.
Okay.
Like things that we don't really need to use all the time go
Mm-hmm.
up there, and then like we also have like just other stuff like hunting gear and like lanterns for when the lights go out and just like little silly things like that. But
yeah,
so-
that's a good place to keep the lanterns for when the lights go out. Upstairs in the garage.
Yeah,
As
we
long as you
store-
got a flashlight.
we store kind of spare tools that we're not using, don't want to use anytime soon. But you don't want to get rid of anything.
Yeah.
And we've got like some of the stuff we sell at the market. Some of that stuff's seasonal, so if it didn't sell and it's left over, it'll go up there.
Okay.
There's some wood that goes up there. And
Now, do y'all have like a mini split in there for cooling?
we do. So upstairs, we've got like a traditional central unit, and we got 2 different units. We got a central upstairs, and we got a mini split that I put in downstairs.
Okay.
When we moved in, the upstairs was finished out sort of as a man cave.
Oh, okay.
And then downstairs was it was raw studs. So whenever we started making that into a shop, we went in, insulated it, sheetrocked it, redid all the lighting. I ran all the electrical, I installed the mini split, everything in there, just about everything in there except for dropping the sub pin.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that makes sense. Now, tool wise, what do y'all have? I know y'all have a big laser in there. What else do you have?
We're like on the digital side, we've got the laser, we've got a CNC, a little 4 foot by 4 foot CNC, and we got a full complement of hand tools and planes and chisels. We enjoy kind of going to these woodworking estate sales, and we were able, in a couple different ones, we were able to go in and just pick up some really nice collections of stuff. So
like hand planes and antique tools too. Like we found some Lee Nelson planes at one, and there was a gentleman who was retiring from woodworking who had an estate sale, and we were able to pick up tools and lumber, like all kinds of hand tools and lumber.
Yeah, nice.
It's hard though sometimes because we'll have like phone bidders that'll come out and they'll bid up the thing, and it's like costs more than what it's actually worth, which is weird. It's like, why would you do that? But
yeah, and then we've got all the traditional power tools. We've got so I still have my very first table saw that I bought 20 plus years ago, that Grizzly that I was talking about earlier. I've still got that, but whenever Maria was getting into it, the Grizzly, it's an old table saw. It's still a left tilt. There's no riving knife. There's no safety features on it. I don't have a blade guard. There's no dust collection on it. There was nothing on this thing that went, for a safety feature. It was a fence and a blade. And she was a little intimidated by that, and rightfully so.
I never wanted to use the table saw ever. Like I would figure out a way to use any other tool to avoid that machine.
And rightfully so. That's one of those things that got we agreed that we would get a saw stop. So we ended up with saw stop. Still had the old Grizzly. And as old as it is, it's a great saw, but as old as it is, I didn't feel like I could get what I thought it was worth. So we just kept it, and we put, we made the old Grizzly, a dedicated dado saw. And
Oh, that's good opportunity to, dedicate something to that. Yeah. You have them back to back?
we do.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Here's the funny thing is I had a plan, and it's hard to get a saw stop at a decent price. So I waited and I waited, and I was going to get I think it's called the PCS. So it's the same depth as the Grizzly.
Yeah.
And it's the same height as the Grizzly. And I've done all the research. I'm like, I can put both of these between the front rail and the back rail and have them both, side by side going onto a common outfeed without too much modification. And then when something came up at a decent price, it turned out to be the ICS, which is a deeper table and higher, and it's wider. So it wouldn't fit what I was planning. So that's actually what I did is I ended up facing them to each other. One became the outfeed for the other one.
Right. That makes sense.
It's a nice setup too. We spent a lot of time building that together. It has drawers and storage space and stuff. The only problem is that it's still really tall because I'm 5'2", and he's like 6 foot tall, and that is like almost chest high to me.
Yeah.
So it's like leaning over, but with the saw stop, I don't feel as scared, I guess, as long as I have like a guard, the fence and everything's like set up where it's not going to fly back at me. I feel all right using it.
Yeah. That's a very good point, because I was always enamored with the ICS version until somebody brought that up, and I went, yeah, I'm not the tallest person in the world, but so I was like, I didn't think about that, because I wanted the more space in front of the blade,
Yeah, I mean, the height, the height's the same. The problem she has is that because the way our garage, it's a slope on the drive-in, and then where it's at in the garage, there's basically a high spot where it goes from driving up into the garage to being flat. And in order to do that, we had to put it up on a platform. It's either that or build the floor out of the garage and try to level the entirety of the garage.
Oh, okay. So you got slope. Yeah, that even makes sense. Okay, all right.
And then it's on casters, so it's up about 4 inches in the air, and the height of the saw. Yeah, it's not ideal for somebody at 5'2".
Yeah. So what are y'all doing for lathes? You mentioned you bought a new lathe recently.
Yeah. So we have a Harvey. The T60.
360.
Okay. How do y'all like that one?
Yeah, it's a great lathe. I mean, it's super smooth. It shuts off like immediately if you need it to shut off. I haven't had any issues with it. It's been wonderful.
Oh, cool. Well, so tell us a little bit about what y'all like to do outside of wood.
I mean,
sounds like y'all have a pretty full life.
It's like there's no for any other hobbies, really. I do ceramics sometimes, but I usually just use my lunch break to do that.
Okay.
Kids are in a bunch of different things. Like our oldest is in marching band, and so from June, because I think they start late June, early July practicing until the end of football season. Which this year our school went to state champions.
Oh, wow.
Like, they went to the state championship, so they were playing until like.
It's an extra 5 weeks, I think.
November, I think.
Okay.
So from July to November, our schedule was completely booked because he's got practice, 4 out of the 7 days of the week. And then he has like 1 day off to study and, catch up on work. And then Sundays he's off. And that's the same schedule for us because we go with him to the games. We volunteer. Our youngest is also in band, but because he's in junior high, he's not marching. But he also does Taekwondo, and he's earning his black belt. So we've got, weekends, like Fridays are full for that. Brian and I like to go to the theater. I wanted to see like Hamilton one year when it came out. And so we ended up with season tickets to the Broadway shows. And so he's just kept renewing it. And so that's like the only other thing that we do that's not woodworking that's kind of like odd for us.
That's awesome.
That's great.
It's fun to go and see something new and have a date night.
Yeah, we got dedicated. It's nice having season tickets to the theater. We've got at least 6 to 8 times a year. We've got a dedicated date night where we're doing that.
Yeah, that's nice. Yeah. Me and my wife.
Obst.
Yeah.
Yeah, we go to the theater occasionally, but it's one of those things. If you don't have a reason to go out, sometimes like, we'll just watch a movie here.
Mhm,
It's like,
mhm.
yeah, that's the way it ends up.
Yeah.
No, a friend of mine takes her daughter. They have a pass to the local theater, and like Chicago was just this past weekend. Les Mis is later on in the season. I mean, big shows
Yep.
and the ones in between them. It's so cool to experience that stuff.
Hmm.
We had a show just this past Saturday night.
Yeah.
There you
I
go.
was like, man, I got some stuff I need to do in the shop to get done. But, we went anyways.
Yeah, exactly.
It's good to force yourself out too.
Yeah.
It really is.
It is. Well, with that, let's move on to our fortnightly beer choices. So I'll start us off. I'm just, I jumped off the cider bandwagon. I'm now back on the Guinness bandwagon.
Back on the house beer. All right.
Mhm. So, what are you drinking, Sean?
I'm on the house beer as well, Miller Lite for
Okay.
sure.
Okay.
How about you,
Maria, Brian, y'all have anything to recommend?
I'm always doing my my Shiner Light.
Okay.
Oh, you Texas folk with the Shiner. All right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Well, it's my piggy water, so I can watch my figure. Low calories. It's light beer. And it's-
That's
it's-
right.
For a light beer, it's
I
about a decent flavor as you're going to get.
Nice.
Maria?
I bought some beer, but Brian hasn't opened one for me yet. So
He's waiting. He's
How hard
waiting
is
for
it
the
to
5
open?
questions. He's waiting for the 5 questions.
it's yeah, exactly. I got the Le Fin du Monde. So
Oh
it's
yeah.
that Canadian beer from Unibrew. It's
Mhm.
so good. It's like my favorite beer.
Oh, it's heavy.
Yeah, it's a heavy beer and it's like, Belgian style, but those are the kind that I like. So
Yeah.
if it's
Yeah.
not that, it would be like Scotch. I think that's
Okay.
There you go.
on a
Right.
Wednesday night, that's a little too much.
That's a little too much. Yeah.
One Le Fin de Monde, that's a good hour of a sipper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'll warm a little bit, but it's good all the way. I haven't had that in years.
Yeah, it's-
Okay. Well, great. Well, where can folks find y'all on the interwebs? And I'll take a break for 5 minutes while y'all go through all these.
So we're on Instagram at Heartwood Woodshop and then heartwoodwoodshop.com. Brian's handle on Instagram is at Brian_Murrah. Mine is at MDM Carlo. And then you can find us on Facebook and YouTube.
Fantastic. So do we have any feedback?
We sure
Sean?
do from our previously mentioned Elizabeth Weber episodes, 539 and 540 that came out. McIntyre Furniture said, I had so much fun listening to this episode. Thanks for sharing your story. Casa Woodworks tagged her. Very cool. Very cool. Copper John Woodworks said, Casa Woodworks, clappy hand emojis. I think that's what that is. This is pretty awesome. You're one of my favorite turners / creators, and I share that sentiment. It's awesome. Bill's Yard added, another great listen. Thanks for the company this afternoon. So, look at that. We're a companion to Bill's Yard. That's very nice.
That's fantastic. Yeah. I forgot Bill's Yards. I forgot what your actual name is. I know we corresponded a couple of times and I forget about that, but I've tried like twice to talk him into coming on the episode. But
If his name isn't Bill,
no.
Oh.
It's something else. I know.
Okay.
I forgot off the top of my head because I just know him as Bill's Yard. You know how that goes with the things. Well, Brian, Maria, thanks so much for coming on the show. And we'll see you next week for the 5 questions.
Hey,
Yeah.
thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
And that just about wraps it up for this show. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the show on the podcatcher of your choice. Just search for the Modern Woodworkers Association. And while you're there, please leave us a review. You can follow us on Instagram at MWA_podcast. And if you'd like to support the podcast, go over to patreon.com/MWA podcast. But the best thing you can do is tell a friend. Word of mouth goes a long way in sharing our discussion.